Okay, we're live. All right. Hi, my name is Alexa Nicholas, and this is ePredators. We are protesting TMZ, but today is a bit of a different type of protest. I wasn't able to get out of my car today because I was experiencing harassment and stalking for the third time in person. And I served my stalker with a TRO today, and they didn't leave from where they were at, and instead he had the same person come over and harass everyone that was trying to protest, so I was not able to get out of my car, which is terrifying. And I'm still stuck in the car because I don't know if they're ever going to return. And so I just feel like it's more comfortable for me to do the protest within the car, because at least we can still do this and say what needs to be said, but all of us can be safe while doing it. It's interesting because we're here at TMZ actually protesting the fact that ePredators believes that TMZ is institutionalized stalking and harassment. If we look at the history of gossip tabloids, it's just straight up harassment that celebrities have been taught and almost pressured into enduring, and nobody should ever have to endure stalking and harassment. There were some photos that my friend Melanie showed me of Britney Spears during the height of the paparazzi days where you actually couldn't even see her from an aerial view. Now, if that was happening to somebody who wasn't a celebrity, people would probably have told her, go get a TRO against this person, or go get a restraining order against this person, or, possibly sue them, civil harassment. But when it's a celebrity, it seems to be that they're supposed to endure it, while everybody actually profits off of the stalking and harassment. And ePredators believes that's exactly what TMZ does. TMZ is monetizing stalking and harassment, and so we're here protesting that. Sorry, I'm a little bit shaken up, so excuse me while I'm in it silent as fuck in this car right now. So let's go through the first protest sign. It says, ePredator protests institutionalized stalking, peeping TMZ. So the definition of stalking, people have this very confused. A stalker would love to say this: it's not stalking if you don't threaten their life, right? Wrong. Stalking's definition is any person who willfully, maliciously, and repeatedly follows or harasses an other person with unwanted and obsessive attention. Now, does that sound familiar? Yes, if we think about how people talk about celebrities in general and make money off of them, there's an obsession there. Sometimes it's actually extremely malicious. They try to get a reaction out of the celebrity to then spin it to whatever kind of agenda they personally have, when actually they're the ones in the wrong. They're the ones doing something wrong, not the person that's being harassed and stalked. Them reacting is called a trauma response, and they're entitled to it, whatever it may be. So we can go to the next one. All right, we got Predators. So what's so wild about this is that when I was Googling and researching about TMZ, I came across an article where it talks about what a predator is. And I was taken aback. I was like, wait, predator? But I thought it was spelled wrong. I was like, do you mean predator? And I was like, no. Actually, predator, spelled with EDITOR, is a producer-editor combination. So people that work at TMZ, for example, who go out of their way to find stories, clickbait, etc., they're called a predator. And yeah, it's exactly how it sounds. So I found that pretty interesting that people should know. I think it's spelled differently, but it sounds exactly the same. You know what I mean? So this guy right here, we got Stephen G. Clow. Who is Stephen G. Clow? He is the creator of modern gossip journalism. In 1924, Stephen G. Clow was indicted by a United States grand jury on charges of using the mails to defraud. The underlying crime was that of blackmail, the same offense which had brought down Town Topics, an earlier New York magazine devoted to the comings and goings of East Coast high society. Over several years, a trial is revealed. Clow and his collaborators had approached wealthy businesses and show business figures, threatening to publish information about them in Broadway brevities unless payment was made. Now, this is really interesting to also talk about. stalkers seem to not only harass, but they'll try to blackmail their victim, get their victim in a constant state of feeling like they're not safe. Even in their own home, they feel like something's gonna come out about them or someone's gonna reveal something about them, which causes extreme emotional distress. That is a civil, like that is absolutely uncalled for, but no one talks about that. They just think about harassment, they think about stalking, but blackmail is a very key component when you're talking about a predator. A predator preys on any kind of weakness they find, and they will even create weaknesses to exploit. So it's a never-ending cycle the victim is in. Even when they're not in a weak state, the predator will make sure that they make them weak to prey off of that. So it's just a never-ending cycle. So yeah, this is Stephen G. Clout. He is the creator of modern gossip journalism. I think TMZ wouldn't probably be here today if it wasn't for this creepy guy. Yeah. All right, here's oh my god. So this is a copy of a old magazine. Actually, it was an old gossip magazine called Confidential. Here is Mr. Confidential himself right there in this little box. Yeah, so his name is Richard Harrison. Harrison and this guy right here, does look familiar? This is the owner of TMZ. So Harrison and Levin both developed a publication around their personalities and attempted to imprint their sensibilities as broadly as possible. Both were incredibly savvy about the law and the way to wield it in their favor. Both relied heavily on the seemingly human impulse to trade secrets for money. Both understood that secrets about race and sexuality, especially female sexuality, are the most effective ways to draw an audience. And both, it seems, were not above leveraging the contents of their figurative faults. Harrison had ample evidence of Hollywood heartthrob Rock Hudson's homosexual activity and was primed to publish it, or, in the Confidential style, heavy insinuations thereof, but Hudson's agent, Henry Wilson, arranged a deal in which Hudson's image would be salvaged in exchange for information about the illicit juvenile delinquent past of another of Wilson's clients. So it seems like what Mr. Confidential ended up learning was that he can tell studios or managers that, hey, I won't release this deep, dark secret about your client if we trade secrets about somebody else. So we can release one in favor of another, which is just disgusting. This is just institutionalized harassment, institutionalized blackmail, and it's extremely dehumanizing. And so this guy got away with it for a long time. So I wanted to name this Stalkers because it's kind of ridiculous they called it confidential, because these guys don't believe anything is fucking confidential. They don't respect confidentiality whatsoever. They actually just put the con in confidential. So, and then we got here, Predator exposed. There's the Predator again. Let's not get it confused. It's just with EDITOR. Harvey Levin is so obsessed with the First Amendment that he takes advantage of it. That's right. That's what Harvey Levin loves the most, is the First Amendment. He loves talking about how he can freely talk about whatever he wants to at the expense of other people's mental health, which is a disgusting thing to be obsessed with. What he really is obsessed with is making other people feel like shit. And then we got James Quickly regrets being stuck in this box. I cannot. Sorry, I didn't even know what to say about this guy. He wasn't like even that bad per se. Like, he made up fictional things about old celebrities back in the day. But he still was part of this shit, whatever this is. And so anyways, here, why Harvey preys on privacy? Why do you prey on privacy, dude? And then harassment sells, be a creep. That's basically TMZ's whole thing, in my personal opinion, is they encourage people to harass celebrities. They encourage people to be a creep. That's right. Yeah, it's not just TMZ at fault, but anybody who's participating in whatever the fuck this is with these dudes, yeah, that's harassment, and you're being a creep. All right, so let's move on to the crazy, I don't even know if this is the craziest part of TMZ, but it's definitely one of, other way. Sorry. It's okay. Oh wait, it's this way. It's this way. No, you got it. You're good. Okay, so yeah, this exists. I don't even know what the hell, how this is even legal is insane. Can you look at this really quickly? Okay, this is a TMZ fucking tour bus, which on YouTube. So I'm not used to being on YouTube. This is my first time. But this is a tour bus where they literally go around and they look at people's homes. Which, by the way, can I say this to the camera? What the hell are you thinking? That is so disrespectful. You're literally finding a loophole, TMZ, to stalk and harass people. Is that for real? Like, look at that. Look at those people. So I'm calling this the TMZ Stalker Lure. It's where a stalker, an institutionalized stalker, basically lures individuals into participating in their stalking. So look at all these people. They're like, yay, I'm stalking too, woohoo, peace. Look how fucking scary this is. And then anyway, so it's operated by unwanted and obsessive attention, because we got that definition of stalking earlier. And TMZ makes you a real stalker. So imagine, I actually lived up at this place called the Summit in Mulholland, and a lot of celebrities lived within the that community. And sometimes I would get there and there would be one of these buses just parked outside with all of these random people with their cameras out. Now, if this was a normal person, I called the police and said, these individuals are outside of my house, they're taking photos, I'm scared. They'd be like, okay, make a police report, end up getting a TRO. But for a celebrity, where do they go? This has become hyper-normalized. TMZ and institutions like this have hyper-normalized stalking and harassment. Shame on you. Shame on you. Okay, so let's go on to our next sign. Okay, sorry. Just it's the same way. No, you got it. You're good. All right, so we're gonna go into a very depressing historical path right now. So this is photography as a tool of subjugation. Even the language around a camera, for example, shoot, take, trigger, grab, dodge, headshot, subject, viewfinder, capture, master flash, and there's a slave flash, okay? Teju Cole said a really incredible quote right here. Photography during colonial rule imaged the world in order to study, profit from, and own it. The camera was actually used as a weapon during colonization. I would actually like to read a few things here, okay? The invention of photography, and we're talking about paparazzi a little bit right here. So I wanted to give the real history of how cameras have been used as weapons. I mean, think about it. Think of these words: take, trigger. I mean, this is like capture, shoot. We got to change that. That's all colonial. It's disgusting. All right. The invention of photography occurred at most opportune moment for Europe's colonial powers. Photography was used to justify Europe's colonization of Africa and help to further cement the ideological basis for white racial superiority. Between 1870 and 1900, Europe's unrelenting imperial aggression towards Africa eventually led to the colonization of the continent. And you can look more into this. I can't go into everything today, but I really, really, really encourage you, if you can, trigger warning, obviously, into really the history of how white people use cameras as a total weapon and a tool for their own superiority. And they subjugate, and it's a power tool. And we see this now even with celebrities, in the same sense where it's like, okay, this is scary. Having a camera in your face, you know, like going to the grocery store, it's what that dehumanizes you. You know, that you should be able to say no. You should be able to say, I don't want to be photographed right now. I don't want that. Why do we not have any type of consent or actual constitutional right when it comes to privacy? I kept trying to find it, and I honestly couldn't. That's why guys like Harvey Levin get to flash around the First Amendment card, because there's not really amendment for our own privacy, our right to privacy. All right. But yeah, I suggest you go into that. I don't want to go into too much of its trigger.
What about the journalist?
Which journalist? Oh, yeah, I should read that quote. Okay. Yeah. Where is that actually? The camera has often been a dire instrument. Yeah. Yvonne Vera said the camera has often been a dire instrument. In Africa, as in most parts of the dispossessed, the camera arrives as part of the colonial paraphernalia together with the gun and the Bible. Let that sink in. Okay, let's move on to dipshit. Yeah, look at this guy. Oh my God. All right, so here's our Eat Predators Zone EPZ headline. Here's what's buzzing and trending today. Signs law limiting arbitration agreements for sexual SA. I'm on YouTube. All right, dipshit leaks TMZ grabs a towel. What happened here is simple. What exactly did happen here? I mean, from my personal opinion, I saw all these headlines where it was like Diplo basically won his lawsuit when, first of all, arbitration is supposed to be confidential, so who leaked it? But that was supposed to be confidential. And the way that TMZ spun that entire headline was to make people believe that, you know, his alleged victim was actually guilty of trying to ruin his life, you know, the typical thing. And so when I saw that TMZ headline, it was very triggering for, you know, as a survivor, because survivors have to deal with this time and time again, especially when they're coming against somebody who is in a position of power. They have all the resources in the world to spin things in their favor. And the headline to me really screamed that, because when you actually read the article, you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is arbitration. Oh, wait a minute, this isn't the civil suit that is still ongoing and trials in what, July? And you're like, oh, wait a minute, but the TMZ headline seemed very clickbaity, and it really wasn't actually what was happening. And I want to kind of break down what arbitration is and why it is now illegal when it comes to forced arbitration of sexual assault in the workplace. SA. Oh my God, being on YouTube is one hell of a journey. Okay, here we go. We got Eat Predators Daily, our version of victims and judgments. Look at who this lady is. We got Diane Wayne right there. Oh my God. She's an arbitrator. Her areas of specialty are archaic patriarchal litigation, lawyers go to cool girl, and queen of sycophants. Hi, Diane.
What's a sycophant?
Hi. A sycophant is someone with a butt kisser, which is what we're gonna read, who I think is kind of a butt kisser. Okay, so what do survivors though think about Diane Wayne? Now, I found Diane Wayne surprisingly on Brian Friedman's, you know, good old Brian. We found Diane Wayne on Brian Friedman's law website, which was interesting. So he seems to like her a lot. And she's an arbitrator. And so I saw only Brian Friedman's quotes on what he thought of her, but we should really start thinking about what do survivors think about Diane Wayne? But wait, actually we can't. You know why? Because arbitration is confidential. And so survivors aren't able to actually talk about what their experience is in arbitration. And that's the sad part about NDAs and arbitration, for example, is the survivors never get to have a say. Well, I'm here today to speak for the survivors, and let's talk about what we think about people like Diane Wayne. Can arbitration be neutral? This is compiled by ePredators. Forced arbitration isn't court. In fact, forced arbitration prevents survivors from going to court. And under forced arbitration, proceedings are conducted in secret, often by arbitrators selected and paid for by the person in a position of power. And the outcomes of the arbitration are usually hidden from the public and the employees and coworkers, and they usually can't even, and they can't be appealed or can't even be overturned, .. And when it comes to SH and SA, forced arbitration shielded perpetrators, silenced survivors, and enabled employers to sweep episodes of SA and SH under the rug. And it kept survivors from knowing if others have experienced the same thing, in the same workplace, at the hands of the same person. The only way that you can ever sustain your burden of proof is by getting access through discovery. What's his name? Palevsky explains. The arbitrators believe it is their job to limit the amount of discovery and depositions. So it is very hard to get more than just a handful of depositions. That's unfair. In some cases, forced arbitration can happen before a trial, and a judgment could offset what the survivor was entitled to in the civil suit. Okay, let's talk about that, for example. for a second. So let's say someone gets pushed into a forced arbitration, and usually that's not a fair battle for the survivor, especially against somebody who's in a position of power. Now, let's say a trial is coming up or a civil suit is coming up as a hypothetical, and they lose that arbitration. The survivor lose that arbitration because it's never in their favor. It's always in the favor usually of the person in a position of power. Now, when the civil case happens, let's say that survivor wins that case, wins it, and gets some kind of a settlement for that. Guess what happens? That arbitration will just offset that amount and leaving the survivor with nothing. Nothing. You know how horrible that is? Horrible. Arbitration should be illegal when it comes to sexual assault because it's furthering abuse upon the survivor, and we all know that now. It's archaic. It's old Diane Wayne. Okay, arbitration judgments are commonly leaked to the press to persuade the public opinion in favor of the abuser. If arbitration is confidential, then who leaked it to TMZ? Who benefited from that leak? Whoa, that's a crazy photo. Okay, here's Brian Freeman. Brian Freeman, a lawyer at Friedman and Tatelman LLP, who has represented entertainment talent in mediations in front of Wayne. I wonder if he did Diplo and the survivor of Diplo, the alleged survivor. Was that you, Diane Wayne? Entertainment talent in mediations in front of Wayne called her such a likable person that is hard to keep your anger during a mediation. She really reads people well. Friedman. Oh my God. Wayne, this is ridiculous. Look at her smile. Wayne, she's like, I'm loving all these compliments. I'll give it to you. I'll give you the innocent. Wayne believes that it is particularly helpful to be friendly instead of intimidating toward lawyers who come in front of her. That's a very important thing for lawyers. They don't want to be embarrassed in front of their client. Well, I wonder what his clients felt about his Business Insider article. Was that embarrassing? Let's go to the next slide. TMZ, where'd you get that leak? Oh my God! Oh my God! That's Grumpy Cat. By the way, we didn't even realize it was Grumpy Cat. It was like we were doing all the signs. But anyways, okay. Inside source says, how do you say her name? Is it Jame? Jame thinks she's psychic, but her cat disagrees. Okay, apparently there's a podcast where this woman here with Grumpy Cat, her cat, she, trigger warning, literally said that, I don't even want to say this because it's so appalling and disgusting that she should really publicly apologize for what she said. But basically said that someone was going to die. What are you, a psychic? Like, that's just absolutely insane to say something. That's an actual human being you're talking about, and you have no right to say something like that. I don't care what you think your debate is or whatever. It's absolutely not okay. That's someone's life, and that's harassment. Those things are actually crimes also. Like, people actually, if there's enough harassment against somebody, they can actually go and fend for themselves. And someone, that's in a celebrity position doesn't get to do that. Someone like her gets to just keep making fun, ha ha ha, or say their opinions about them. And it's really not right. That's why I wish I was out there chanting, but I'm in my car and I really want to tell TMZ and like all the employers there, like, this is institutionalized stalking and harassment. This is just not okay. There is no argument for it. I don't care. All right, so where are we going? Oh, this one.
Last time, yeah.
Okay, so what I noticed with TMZ and their a lot of their headlines when it came to females specifically, they really like to paint this whole archaic hysteria situation where the females are crazy and mentally ill and can't figure out where they are. They're naked, they're in the streets, and it's so old world, man. Like, this is hysteria. This is so past tense. These things aren't real. And also, how dare you go and continue this type of sexist, I don't even know, aggression, to be honest with you. It's very aggressive. So I wanted to talk about women in hysteria in the history of mental health today. So here we got Hippocrates. 5th century BC is the first to use the term hysteria. Indeed, he also believes that the cause of this disease lies in the movement of the uterus. Okay, first of all, wow. I love that men, like, you know, especially back then, they were like, we're really smart. You know, the uterus is floating around in there and like strangling her. It's like, what the fuck? It's so ridiculous. Mansplaining. The mainstream view of the time is one in which the woman is a physically and theologically inferior being, an idea that has its roots in the Aristotelian concept of male superiority. It all sounds really fancy until you like really think about it, and you're like, this is just gross sexism and yeah, a lot of white men. The father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, 1865 to 1939, said women have no power but handling, trying to use men in subtle ways to achieve hidden objectives. Now, this sounds so familiar. As a survivor, like when I'm reading this, you really see how there's a generational curse, basically, from the patriarchy that probably lives in all of our DNA, you know, of just constantly thinking women are out to get men and like out to get everybody. And it has no basis. It's not even substantially true, if you want to talk in lawyer terms. Like, it's just not true whatsoever. It's actually just sexism. It's the patriarchy. It's colonizers, to be honest with you, that keep this horrible hate against women, you know, and we're constantly having to say, no, we're actually trying to fight for our rights here, or we actually did get essayed, you know, and it's like, no, you're after his money. Oh, no, you're after him, because, you know, this is where it comes from. It's old, it's archaic, it's in our DNA at this point. It literally is so, it's like part of the ethos almost. And it's just really, it just upsets me. So anytime you start to think a survivor is not telling the truth, I really do want you to remember this women and hysteria, because it's really where it comes from. And we keep feeding into that patriarchal nonsense. Where the uterus is floating in whatever, you know, and you're like, what, dude? No, that's not the truth. It is still an evolution of the concept of the possessed woman. Time and time again, researchers of medical history point to evidence that hysteria was consistently misdiagnosed, little more than a way to describe and pathologize. How do you say that? Pathologize. Wow, that's hard to say. Everything that men found mysterious or unmanageable in women. So this also goes back to back in the day, if you were married to your husband, that your husband would literally be able to just throw you into a mental institution if you started thinking. If you started saying comments that were not in what he wanted you to say, he was actually legally able to throw you into a mental institution. And so it just really goes to show you that anything that makes a male uncomfortable, women are blamed for, and it's actually their fault. But really, it's them just being uncomfortable with the truth. That's what they're uncomfortable with, is the truth. So, is that our last?
New last statement.
Is that our last sign?
In summary,
as somebody who is now a victim of stalking and harassment, I would like to say that this needs to be taken more seriously. I actually myself didn't take it as seriously until it happened to me. And it really consumes your life. You don't even have much of a life during it. They consume you. They won't leave you alone. They'll make sure that your entire day is based around them, either having to go to the police station or gather evidence. It revolves around them, and that's what a stalker really wants, is all this attention. I think in the sense of TMZ and institutionalized stalking and harassment, what they want is the money. Okay, so I think each predator has their own thing going on. For my stalker, it's my attention. It's others' attention, most likely. But when it comes to institutionalized stalking, it's money. Anything that they can gain money, more power, which really actually comes back. It's not money, it's power and control. And that's what really stalkers want. They want power and control over their victim. And that's really what I think these institutionalized stalking industries do, is just that. And as a victim, I just really want us all to take this more seriously. Stalking escalates, and it does get eventually very dangerous. And celebrities especially, we shouldn't just hyper normalize it and say because they're a public figure they don't have the right to privacy. That's not true. You wouldn't want that for your daughter. You wouldn't want that for anybody. So why do we do that to celebrities? It's dehumanizing. It makes no sense. So that's why ePredators is here today. We really hope that you don't click on TMZ's ridiculous headlines that Gypshit might have leaked and TMZ grabbed a towel. We hope that you actually respect human beings as human beings and treat them with dignity. Even if you don't like them. It's okay if you don't like them. But everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and not be harassed, not be stalked. So yeah, it's weird to end it with no chance.
E-Predators!
E-Predators!